Hello and welcome to our second session of the HR Summit of OpenUp. Today we will be diving into the topic of the human aspect of artificial intelligence and understanding its impact on employee well-being. At OpenUp, we envision a world where mental well-being is recognized as a top priority and is supported in the workplace. We believe in empowering people and organizations to make mental well-being a top priority. Through shared experiences and lessons learned, we hope to help people make those positive and sustainable changes. Our aim of the summit is to inspire you on these topics. My name is Emma White. I'm a psychologist here at OpenUp, and I will be the host of today's session. But the real star of the session today is Job van den Berg. Now, Job is an expert in the field of artificial intelligence, and he's very excited to share all of his insights with us today. After his presentation, there will be time for a Q&A, but for now, please join me in welcoming Job van den Berg.
Thanks for having me, and thanks to be here in this great session today. Yeah, I would like to talk about the human aspect of AI, and my name is Job van den Berg. I'm the co-founder, together with my business partner Remy Gieling, of Ai.nl, and we help companies to harness the possibilities of data and AI, because a lot of companies think like we need to do something with this new technology, but what exactly and how to employ within HR, for instance, is quite a challenge. And it's something to think about and to make it really concrete. What could be the benefits of AI and what's the relation with employees' well-being? That's the topic of today. Together with my business partner, we also wrote a book about it. It's in Dutch, Kunstmatige Intelligentie in 60 minuten. But the main ambition of this book was to explain this technology in a really pragmatic and easy way, because I truly believe that AI will have an impact on everyone. If you are a junior, media, senior, or director, it will have an impact. And for that reason, it's important that people understand, where is that technology about and where it's coming from? What are the ethical things to take into account and how could it be employed? So what I would like to share with you today, and I want to give away a few keynotes already, key points already, is first of all, people think about AI from a technological perspective. That is a technological challenge. However, it's also a leadership challenge. It's really about managing your team and making sure that everyone is on the same page. So it's for sure a leadership challenge. Secondly, AI is a new technology, and it's part actually of the Industrial Revolution, which is still going on. And we can learn a lot from previous technological evolutions and also the impact of those technologies on society. So I will also show you some lessons learned from earlier technologies that we have introduced in the past. And last but not least, there's a huge potential to translate HR issues into AI solutions. But then you may think, well, what are exactly those AI solutions for HR? I will explain it also in very detail, and also to make sure that you really have an opinion like, okay, this is something we could be exploring in our organization. So let's start for now. I don't know if you know Sam Altman, but Sam Altman is one of the most influential tech leaders now in the moment, because the CEO of ChatGPT and OpenAI, which is the company behind ChatGPT. And he's saying something quite, I don't know if I agree on that, but he's saying actually that actually you only need really smart people in your organization, because all the average people, employees, can be replaced by AI. So he's saying like AI can actually replace people in your organization. I think he's going a bit far with that, but that's something he's emphasizing now in the articles about AI. There's another interesting thing going on, because I want to show these examples just to highlight that AI is also quite a hype. Everyone is talking about AI and the huge potentialities. But on the same time, the hype is a hype because it's only about AI as being the magic for everything. This is another example. There was a company that replaced his CEO with AI. So the new CEO was not a human, but AI. And what happens actually is that the stocks of this specific company climbed and increased significantly. I'm not saying like that AI could replace by, a CEO can be replaced by AI, but I just want to show that a lot of companies are really overhyping AI. And the question is, where is it ending? And also, what is the effect of AI, implementing AI on the long term? Let's start from the beginning, because what is AI exactly? And I'm quite sure that you already have some opinion about it and also some definition that pops up into your mind. But just to set the scene, I would say AI is technology that can perform tasks that ask human intelligence. And then we are going to quite a trivial topic, because what is exactly intelligence? If I would be asking it to you, someone would say like, yeah, it's like seeing relations, for instance. Maybe it's about having creativity or learning from previous experiences. There are a lot of issues related to intelligence. And for that reason, it's quite hard to say like, what is intelligence exactly? And for that reason, it's also quite hard to explain in very detail what AI exactly is, because what is intelligence exactly? The funny thing is that AI is really existing for a very long time. In the Dartmouth conference, approximately 60 years ago, there was a couple of scientists, men with glasses, and a beard. It's not really an inclusive group of people, although they were already talking about the tremendous effects of AI and talking about machines that can learn new tasks. So AI as a topic and a technology is existing for a very long time. And what has been happening is that for a very long time we had so-called narrow AI. And what is narrow AI? The best example of that is your algorithm in Spotify. And I'm quite sure everyone knows Spotify. And you also know those Discover Weekly. So every week, Spotify is actually trying to predict the preference, your music preference. So I have young kids who are listening a lot Kinder voor Kinderen and other type of children music. So my Discover Weekly is totally screwed. However, if you would not have children and you would just listen only to your favorite songs, the algorithm is quite well in predicting your favorite music. It is narrow AI because this model is really, really good in predicting music preference. But this AI model is never ever going to think about, let's kill human beings, for instance, or let's talk about what you want to eat tonight. So it can only perform one specific task. Now we are moving to so-called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. And that is AI that is able actually to learn new tasks. So that's able to come up with new actions and to have a kind of consciousness to think about new type of tasks that he or she can learn itself. And what has been happening over the course of those 60, 70 years is that so-called IQ points of AI has been increased significantly. So the average IQ of a human being is like 100. Einstein had 160 IQ points. But given the lightning speed evolution of AI, it may well be that it could be increasing to 1,000, an IQ score of 1,000. And then, of course, it is really logical that we're talking about a path of AI to stop the development of AI and also to think about, is this a good development AI? Does it also have negative impact because it's going so rapidly and the AI is becoming so smart, quote unquote, that it maybe is overwhelming human beings? There was also a topic which Geoffrey Hinton was talking about. And maybe you know Geoffrey Hinton. Geoffrey Hinton is the so-called godfather of AI. He was the head of AI within Google, and he has a really, really important impact on AI where it is now. He just stopped with his job because for a very long time he was really ambitious and positive and optimistic about developments of AI. But then suddenly he stopped and quitted his job and he was thinking like, we need to stop with AI. And why he's thinking like that? He's thinking that AI is wiping out humanity. He really thinks that there is a kind of a super intelligence and it could really be a threat for human beings. And this is quite interesting because the guy that is kind of inventing AI and super AI like it is now actually raising questions whether this is a good development. We can have a lot of a discussion about the concerns of AI, but I want to emphasize that AI is not only a positive development, but also something to think about with one another and have a discussion about. I think there are 4 major concerns to talk about and to have an opinion about. And that is, first of all, that the concentration of knowledge about AI and also the investment of AI is just only a monopoly of a few companies like OpenAI, Google, Meta, Facebook. So there are only a few companies who are really investing in AI. And having a monopoly, I think, is not always a good case, because the knowledge, but also the influence is concentrated just to a few selection of companies. So that is could be a threat, it could be a concern. Secondly, and then we are linking also to HR, it's going to change my job. It's going to change your job. It's going to change everyone's job. And people need to have the willingness to change. And that is not something to take for granted. People have to change their skill sets. And that is something to take into account. And we will dive into that topic later on. Thirdly, we are talking about regulation within the EU. There's so-called the EU AI Act coming up, in which makes sure that that the negative impact of AI can be somehow regulated by means of regulation. However, we can have regulation within the EU, but we don't have an impact on what's happening when it comes to AI in the US, in China, and also South Korea, in which there's a lot of money being put in AI, and they are also really focusing on AI development. So we have not the influence on the whole AI development, which might be a concern. And last but not least, carbon, CO2, so carbon dioxide. The amount of electricity that is being needed for just one request on ChatGPT is equal to having a light on for 1 hour. So a lot of electricity. It's responsible for 3% of the total electrical consumption worldwide. And the CO2 consumption is equal to halfway the CO2, the carbon dioxide consumption of the whole aircraft and the airplanes that we have worldwide. So in other terms, it is not that good for the climate. That also might be a concern to take into account. So that is something that I wanted to share with you, that those concerns are really a topic of discussion. Maybe you have the question like, okay, it's existing for already a very long time, but why does AI have been evolved in such a lightning speed? Actually, there are 3 reasons for that. First of all, computer power. The computer power has been increased tremendously. And for that reason, we can, in a split second, we can calculate, doing a lot of calculations. And there are so-called data servers that also are responsible for the huge amount of electricity that needs to be used for calculating all those AI models. But this computer power is really important why we have generative AI. And what is generative AI? Is AI that can create new things like text or images. A second reason is the amount of data, because data is the oil or the fuel for AI. You need to have data just to train the models. And since the data consumption has been exploded, also AI development has been increased significantly. And last but not least is money, investment. The investment in AI has been exploded. And there's also a reason why the involvement of AI has been gone very, very rapidly. Then the question is, and that's happening all over again over the course of the Industrial Revolution, is that new technology always comes with feeling of anxiety and also feelings of becoming redundant. So what's happening every time when a new technology has been introduced, there's a kind of a tendency that this kind of has some relation with traumatic shock, actually. That people are feeling of depression and are in a kind of a shock. And it takes a very long time that people get used to the new situation and that they have integrated and accepted actually this kind of new changes. And this is also something that's happening over the course of many, many years. This is a news article from 1928, so approximately 100 years ago. In that time, we were already talking about unemployment, which was being blamed on new machines. But also in that time, we were already talking about the age of robot that is inside. So this head of this news article could also have been a head of a news article nowadays. So the discussion about AI, robots, and machine is something we already be talking about for 100 years. Another example of the impact of new technology on feelings of anxiety is this one. This is a new article from the 80s in which math teachers were protesting against calculators. So the calculator was being introduced and they were feeling feelings of anxiety and they were protesting. Then you may question like, why were those math teachers being protesting? There were actually two reasons for that. First of all, they were really, really scared that they would be losing their job. Because of the calculator, they were actually becoming redundant. That did not occurred. The second reason was that they were really scared that students were not able to do the math anymore. I think that kind of happened because doing the math by head is for a lot of students quite hard to do, just maybe because of the calculator. But I want to show this example because a calculator is maybe not that much a huge innovation like AI, but still the impact of introducing technology on feelings of redundancy is quite the same what is happening now with AI. Another example which is happening now, the Writers Guild, maybe you've read about it in the news. This is about scenario writers. ChatGPT is using their content to produce new texts. They're saying like, I told ChatGPT to write a picket sign and it sucked. So I think they are really, I can totally imagine the feeling of anxiety and feeling redundancy because they are just using their work to produce new work by means of AI without any linkage to their content that they made by themselves. But again, you see like the linkage of technology on feelings of anxiety. Then another thing, this is a bit of a striking video. This is Cruise, that's a self-driving taxi, which is together with Waymo of Google. Cruise is part of General Motors. Those are so-called autonomous taxis that are just going through Silicon Valley. And this person, yeah, I think he's not that happy. He's kind of destroying this taxi. And I don't know why this person is doing this, but I may well imagine that this was a taxi driver and that he lost his job because of this autonomous taxi driver. But it has a lot of similarities with this picture. This is a picture from a protest movement called Luddists in 1900s, and they are destroying machines because they were against automation, so to speak. Here again, you see a lot of similarities of technology on feelings of anxiety, redundancy, but also fairness. And the reason why I'm showing this is that we can learn a lot from these examples from the past to understand how we can incorporate AI in our organization. Then another question, is AI going to take away jobs? Also a topic which is popping up again and again and again when new technology has been introduced. And the thing is, it's not the end of work, it's most of the time the end of boring work. I would like to give some examples of that. And I will again starting with a newspaper from this time from the 60s, in which they were talking about automation as being not a villain. In that time, they already observed that indeed some people lost their jobs because of new machines. But overall effect, that was because of these machines, they were creating much more new jobs. So the overall effect was actually that there were much more jobs that occurred than the jobs that disappeared in society. And to give an example, for a very long time before these big machines were being introduced, you had a job like a digger. There was a person who was just digging and preparing the ground before a specific building was going to be constructed. And they were just digging the whole day long, just preparing the ground. And when these type of machines were popping up, of course, they become redundant. The old diggers lost their job because they were not able to adapt actually to the new situation. But the majority of the diggers became carpenters. Because of this new machine, the preparation of the ground went much faster. And for that reason, there was much more time to spend on decoration of new buildings. And for that reason, new jobs occurred and actually much more demand for new type of work popped up. And also, they needed engineers to maintain this type of new machine. So this is an example of that new technology replaces really physical intensive jobs, but creates a lot of new jobs that may well be much more linked to human capacities. I already said at the beginning that AI is a leadership challenge, and let me explain a bit more in detail what I mean with that. This is a nice figure actually to show why it is a leadership challenge. If you would be asking to people who wants change, everyone would say like, yes, we want change. We like that. But if you would be asking as a second question, who wants to change, then people are not that enthusiastic anymore. And then you may well thinking like, why is that the case? That is because from an evolutionary perspective, we are really habitual. Of course, we have people who like change and some people who like more traditional way. However, on the long term, we as human beings like habits. That is something that we feel more comfortable. So when something is going to change in organizations, people feel a bit like, okay, what is happening with my job? So research turns out, for instance, in the Netherlands, that we are quite concerned about AI and also the least optimistic. Actually, EU countries are much more concerned about AI than countries like Brazil or India. And what we also see, and this is really interesting, is that leaders and managers are much more enthusiastic about AI than front-leaning employees. So if you are a manager or a leader, take into account that your enthusiasm will not be the same as your employees in your team. But that we also research turn out, this is a research done by McKinsey, that other research shows is that the more knowledge people have about technology, they also become more enthusiastic about technology. So knowledge and just knowing where it is about is one important element in your AI journey, so to speak. And what is also happening, and that's really important into account, is the so-called Martek's law, is technological change like AI is going exponentially. I'm quite sure that after this session there will be some new AI tools have been popped up. It's going so rapidly, it's going fast, really, really fast. However, organizational change, so adoption, is going really, really slowly. So if you're a leader and just pushing like we need to work with AI is a new big thing, you can really screw up your team because the majority of your team will be on a different page than you are because organizational change, habitual changes go really, really slow. That's really important to take into account. And what another thing is that a one-size-fits-all strategy to get your employees in the loop of AI is also something that will not work. And we have made a model about it to understand what type of employee can be moved forward when it comes to AI compared to others. And that's actually the answer on that question is there are two elements in that. Is first of all, knowledge about data and AI. And the second dimension is optimism. Intrinsic motivation to work with data and AI. People that are really enthusiastic about data and AI and have a lot of knowledge, those are the so-called ambassadors in your organization. Use them and give them credits and also say like, these are the people leading the AI task force, for instance. So use them to lead the AI journey because it's much stronger to have people in your team that like the AI journey than you as a leader are only pushing top down that AI is a new big thing. So those ambassadors, so right up in the matrix, are the people that you can use for that. On the left part, so people that are optimistic about data and AI and have little knowledge, for those people, education and AI training works out really well. Then we have the so-called data purists. Those are the people who are pessimistic about data, but have a lot of knowledge. Those are the so-called experts, data experts in your organization. Those people can be motivated by really seeing them as being the experts. So involve them really as the experts in the field. Because what can happen is that you start with the AI journey and that you're actually talking about the topic that the data specialist we're talking about the topic before those whole generative AI hype was popping up. So they're really feeling like, hey, they're talking about a topic where I am a specialist, and now everyone is talking about that. So really recognize them as being the real experts and take them as experts in your AI journey. And then you have so-called data pessimists. Those are people who are pessimistic about data and AI and don't have that much knowledge. Just leave them for now. Don't push them. Just understand that not everyone will be happy about the development of AI. The reason why this model is really important is, first of all, that you need to be really sensitive about who has what position and opinion when it comes to AI. And also to come up with the right triggers to take people part of that AI journey in your organization. So a one-size-fits-all strategy won't work. And also take into account that it is really healthy that you also have some pessimists in your organization, because that helps the discussion and also the exploration. So don't push like, yeah, everyone needs to be enthusiastic about AI, because that is naive to think about, but it's also good that you have people who have question marks. Then let's move to the last part of this presentation, from HR issue to AI solution, because what I said at the beginning is I also want to help you to think about some really concrete and tangible ways to use AI within HR and within your leadership challenge. And there has been done some research about it by several scientific institutions. And to get a bit of feeling of the status quo, approximately 12% within HR, 12% is using AI within HR. So the adoption is about 10% approximately. That's not that much, would you think, but please take into account that a lot of people are talking about AI, but the amount of people really practicing it and bringing it into practice and using it is very limited. So the 10%, 12% is quite on par with other sectors. And then you may questioning like, okay, what are the kind of application of AI within HR? Yeah, the majority of the application are really focusing on using AI like ChatGPT to write job descriptions or to write policies, or really for administrative tasks. Then another interesting question is like, okay, they are doing that, but what is exactly the benefit of using those AI applications within HR? And here you see, based on research, that most of the time it is something like time, or really like efficiency. So really on like the hard metrics within your organization, and not that much, according to this research, about employee engagement. You can see on the below part of this figure that is just limited. Much more benefits are being seen on the hard indicators like time and efficiency. However, there's another research done by MIT, and they are showing an experiment in which 50% of the employees are using ChatGPT for a task, so using AI, and 50% are not doing the task by means of AI. They're looking, okay, do we see a difference when it comes to job satisfaction, job efficacy? And that research turned out that people who were using ChatGPT as a means to an end in their work were much more satisfied about the job and feel much more comfortable. They also raised more questions and they had more concerns. But there is some research also showing that using AI does not only have an impact on efficiency, but also more on the soft skills or soft metrics like job satisfaction. So let's make it more concretely. So if I talk about using AI on the short term, I'm talking about using AI to increase productivity, but also well-being, because that's, of course, also the topic of today. And I want to answer the question like, to what extent and in what way could you use AI on the short term within the field of HR? To answer that question, I want to bring you back to approximately 30 years ago with the advent of the internet. Why I'm going back to that is because, first of all, like I said before, AI is just a technological evolution, and we can learn a lot from what happened with previous technological evolutions like the internet. And when the internet was popping up, we also realized that there are a lot of new opportunities and that we can use this technology in our own way. And how you can use AI is actually, I always use the analogy of a super intern. It's actually a kind of a sidekick, that can perform tasks for you, that can help you to do or to perform specific tasks. And the math behind this, if you use AI in the right way, and indeed AI can help you as a kind of a super intern, you can spend time on much more meaningful tasks because AI can just do the administrative part, for instance, or the process-related tasks. For that reason, you could make more impacts. But if you make more impacts, you can think about it, people also feel much happier. And if you have happier employees, you can also make more business impact. So I want to emphasize that if you're using AI in the field of HR, it's not about productivity, but if people are feeling more productive, it could may well be also have an impact on well-being and happiness in the work floor. Now, to give an example, because we're doing a lot of repetitive tasks every day, and one of those repetitive tasks is emailing. And I'm not going to say that we need to stop emailing, but just to give you an idea of how much time we spend on emailing, it's about 5 hours a day, according to research of Adobe. And I'm quite sure that at the end of the day, when you're having dinner with your family, and your husband or your wife is just asking like, hey, how was your day? I'm quite sure that you never ever have said like, hey, I had a great day because I was able to send 100 emails. It was great. I sent such great emails today. No, you were talking about a great brainstorm or great discussion with a colleague or well performance by your team. So just to emphasize that AI can really help you in specifically the tasks that you do not like that much and in which it is quite welcome to have a kind of a super intern. And maybe emailing could be nominated as such a task. So what is really important if you talk about AI within HR is to start with an HR issue. If you don't have an HR issue, then don't talk about AI, because AI is a mean to an end. It's not the end, it's a mean to an end. And to find out what tasks could be allocated to AI, I have a simple model to help you with that. On one axis, on the vertical axis, you have how satisfying is that specific task. Is it satisfying or is it not satisfying? And on the horizontal axis, it is about what is the business impact of this specific task. So to give an example of a task which is satisfying but not that much business impact is office jokes. You know, those bad jokes by your colleagues. Of course, keep that in your organization. Really important, because that is just the juice in your organization. Like cold email outreaches, which are not satisfying and don't have any business impact, you could just think about, let's stop with this task. Everything about satisfying and a lot of business impact, those are really tasks that are human-oriented, like giving career advice. The specific tasks that are important for your organization and are not satisfying, those are really well and really good to be outsourced to AI. So just focus on those specific tasks. And I could think about HR admin, so administrative part within HR. Those could be well being allocated to AI or partly being allocated to AI. So use this kind of matrix to find out what tasks are really suitable for AI. Because what I want to emphasize, AI loves repetitive, boring tasks. And I'm quite sure that nobody likes repetitive, boring tasks. Some people like to do repetitive tasks, but doing it all day long, 24/7, I don't think that everyone would like that. But AI loves that because AI is about rules. AI is never going to be tired. AI is working 24/7. So AI is really suitable for repetitive, boring tasks. That is something AI is better in than human beings. And to give an example of that, this is a tool, this is a real existing tool, that is a kind of a super intern for recruiters. This AI to help you for like the task when it comes to recruitment. They ask the first questions to people who have just applied on a specific job application. And this tool can help you just to start off with the first basic questions, like why did you apply for this specific vacancy? Why are you interested in that? Of course, this tool is not going to replace a recruiter, but it can help you as a super intern to do the first work. So this is an example of an AI super intern within recruitment that can help you out. And I want to go to the end of the presentation because this specific path model, so to speak, can help you to think about, okay, I have an HR challenge. Could AI be a solution of that? And you can just use this path model to go from a HR issue to an AI solution. And let me explain briefly how it works. It starts with the question, do you have a HR issue? If you don't have an HR issue, then just grab a cup of coffee and carry on. If you have an HR issue, then the first question is it part of an internal system or is it a kind of an external system? Is it like a part of your administrative HR system or is it something which is not in place yet? If it is internal, then the question is it a workflow that can be automated? If it is something that cannot be automated, then it is not suitable for AI because AI loves repetition and automation. Then the question is there maybe already an AI tool existing? Because what I'm saying, there are so many AI tools, just check if there is something already existing. If that is not the case, then you can hire experts to come up with a tailor-made AI solution. But then always ask the question, what is the business case? If we would be implementing this AI solution, does it lead to more productivity, more efficiency, higher employee well-being? So check if it is really a business case. So to give an example, like AI solution for timesheet approvals. There's a lot of time going on with approval of timesheets, and maybe AI can approve timesheets and do the checks. Then the question here is that in time approval system, is that something that is already in place? Can it be automated? If you would be automating it, does it lead to less cost? Does it lead to the fact that someone who's responsible for timesheet approvals can spend their time more meaningfully? So those are the questions that you need to raise and to discuss with your team before you go from an HR issue to an AI solution. So I really hope that this path model help you out to take the first steps. Then to end up this presentation, AI is artificial intelligence. I would say it's more like augmented intelligence. It's a means to an end to help you to spend your time more meaningfully. So what I would like to emphasize, because some people say to me like, sometimes it feels like we are going to work for AI. That is not the case. We are actually exploring how AI could be working for us as a means to an end. So I really want to emphasize that you need to think about, okay, how can AI help me? And how can AI help my team to increase well-being in my team and to create more happiness in my organization? And this is my last slide, and I really want to thank you for your time, and hope you picked up some interesting lesson learned to help you in your own AI journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Job, for this very insightful presentation. I already learned a lot. And as a psychologist, I'm also incredibly curious. So I just want to ease us into the Q&A already by just addressing a few topics, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks. Nice.
So I was wondering, as AI is becoming a bigger and bigger part of work, how are companies or how are we going to ensure employees stay happy and healthy? And how important is adaptability in that?
Yeah, adaptability is a really important topic. And what I'd like to advise is don't use a top-down approach, but really a bottom-up approach. So start a kind of an AI task force with a representation of different type of employees in your organization. So not only the AI ambassadors, but also people who are a bit more skeptical or people that are really the experts in AI. Because that makes sure that you have a kind of a blended and representative selection of employees to think about how AI could be working and give them actually the floor to come up with the first solution. So using that as a bottom-up approach, but really make sure that all type of employees are part of that discussion to make sure that there is a cohesion also in there.
I think that's really interesting. I think sometimes a pitfall can be we just put the ambassadors there, but having all the people being representative of everybody working in the task force is incredibly important. And I think also that critical note is important as well, right? Because there are risks, there are consequences, and to really make that part of the conversation as well.
Yeah, exactly. You're totally right. And also maybe important to say, like, unlike AI, something like having a job that existing for a very long time and that is just a fixed thing is something that is not happening. Jobs always evolving over time. And there's always the case also with other type of evolution in your organization that people have to make sure and have to become comfortable with changes into your organization. Yeah. So from that perspective, it's a kind of old wine in new bottle, so to speak.
Yeah. And it's very true, right? Change is constant. And it's just when there is an actual change being implemented, it becomes even more obvious that that's the case.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you totally agree with that.
And I'm also wondering, how can we use artificial intelligence in a way that helps our work, but can also look after our well-being? And do you maybe have an example for that?
Yeah, sure. Actually, the main thing is to focus upon the tasks that people do not like in their work or feeling like not satisfying, repetitive, because doing repetitive and work that you do not like will, of course, have a negative impact on well-being. So for that reason, also linking back to the previous question about the bottom-up approach, giving employees the floor to coming up with the tasks that they perform every day that they do not like is a really good starting point to think about, hey, maybe AI can help you with this task as a kind of a super intern. And I already showed that research of MIT, which also shows there needs to be much more research to have really good results because this is something new. But this research, and which is quite well researched from a scientific point of view, already turns out that it does have an effect on job satisfaction. Yeah. So really go back to what makes your employees feeling well in your organization is actually also the starting point in your AI journey, I would say.
Right. So it's really how can we reduce the time for the things that give us the least energy, and how can we increase the time for the things that do give us energy. And that from a psychological point of view, that's also what we would work a lot with clients with. How can we reduce the things you don't enjoy and increase the things that you do enjoy? And it sounds like AI can play a pivotal role in that.
Yeah, but it's important to emphasize that, of course, like data privacy, data security, hallucinations of the model or biases are really, really important to take into account and to check. But I just take for granted that organizations are really careful with that specific point as well. Yeah. But if you have that in the right way being set in your organization and take into account the concerns that I also spoke about in the first slides of the presentation, then it really can help employees to become better. And for that reason, I also want to emphasize it's really a managerial challenge as well to equip your team in that.
Yeah. And linking back, Job, to the concerns that you were talking about, what can companies do to help employees who are worried about AI and how it's going to impact their jobs? And what could the role of open communication be here?
Yeah, I think open communication is really important. And just to start a discussion and also to recognize that feelings of anxiety are really logical in this type of evolutions and this type of changes. Yeah. So really acknowledge that people, are not everyone is feeling happy with that. And I truly believe that if you just give feelings of understanding and you're showing your understanding as a manager or a leader, also will help people to feel more comfortable and to start a conversation. But I really want to emphasize just using a top-down approach or being too enthusiastic as a leader, which I can imagine because the possibilities are endless, but taking into account that people can feeling much more anxious because of that action.
Yeah, so it's really kind of validating and normalizing how people are feeling and making them part of the discussion and not be like, well, they don't agree, but we have a lot of people who do agree, so let's just focus on them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, what you already was saying, it's like also good that people are more skeptical. Yeah. and use that as actually as a strength of your organization, that you have a representative selection of people so that you have a better discussion, and also that will help you to come up with a much more impactful AI solution for your organization.
The one word that just keeps coming up with me in your answers, and also in a way in the presentation as well, is change management.
Yeah.
How do you see that relating to the story and everything that you've been sharing?
Yeah, good question. I think it's quite the same with other kind of changes into your organization. So for that reason, you can learn a lot. The same that we can learn a lot from previous historical evolution that has been occurred in the past. So it helps us just to neutralize the discussion, but also to learn from previous. So I think it is indeed a change thing that is happening, and you can learn a lot from all those psychological theories and also organizational psychological theories about it. Yeah.
Really interesting. And based on that, I kind of want to move us into the Q&A, because we have some really interesting questions coming in from the listeners as well. So thank you for your questions, and please feel free to ask any more that pop up. Job, so a question I have from Danielle is, what are your thoughts on privacy, GDPR regarding the using of, for instance, of ChatGPT?
Yeah, very good question. You need to be really, really careful with that. First of all, the free version of ChatGPT, they're using their data for training purposes. So please take into account that every AI tool which is for free, using your data for model purposes. And there are a lot of examples of companies using sensitive data, and that with really negative impact. So when it comes to privacy, I want to say, like, don't use ChatGPT or any other tool for now by using it with sensitive data. Don't use it, of course, but I want to emphasize again, with personal data. Just make it anonymous, or just using it in a way that it is not sensitive data. There are solutions now to use ChatGPT and AI tools with sensitive data, so-called ChatGPT Enterprise. So they're popping up solutions in which the data are really secured. But I think most of the entities of this session will be working with the paid version or the free version. In the paid version, you can just make sure that the data will not be shared. But still, if you want to use some new functionalities within ChatGPT, they are using it for training purposes. So what I always say is, for now, don't use it with sensitive data. And really be curious, make sure that you're using it without any vulnerable data and HR issues. And of course, for HR, that is a more important topic.
Yeah, a clear point to consider,
really
and
important.
A warning to keep in mind with the use of it. So thank you for that. Lisa asks, can you give some examples on how AI is already used in improving the well-being for employees?
Yeah, good question. Actually, it is being used, for instance, as a kind of a chatbot for just small questions that people have on specific ones. So, for instance, some companies using it for their onboarding, a kind of a chatbot, so that you can ask any questions and feel much more comfortable with an organization just by asking all type of questions to a chatbot. And then you may wonder, why a chatbot, why not a colleague? Because sometimes you also have the feeling of, I have dumb questions, and then you can just put it in those chatbots. But also there are some research turning out. That was the MIT research, which I also showed in the presentation, that it turns out that using ChatGPT as a super intern also feel people more secure about their job, and also feeling more efficient. So there are not that much research about it, but the first research turns out that it is a really useful super intern just to help you and to spend your time more meaningfully. But then I want to emphasize, always check what is being said by ChatGPT, because it's a super intern, so it's statistics. So really be careful about that.
Yeah, so the warning signal is there as well, but there are lots of examples of it being used in a very helpful way regarding the well-being. So thank you also for sharing that. So Julie asks, what is considered as generative AI, and that is used in the HR function? Is this HRIS, ChatGPT?
Yeah, good question. So just to give a definition again, generative AI, just for the people that do not know that well, is actually AI that can create or can perform specific tasks by themselves. ChatGPT is being used, for instance, for related questions, more like the practical questions within organizations. So what are my rules when it comes to mobility or any other kind of really practical question about HR? But there is also a lot in HR that's called RPA, robotic process automation. Those are actually so-called narrow AI tools that can help you out, for instance, with putting data in Excel sheets. Because within HR operation, there's a lot of putting data in Excel, managing data files, making sure that it is correct. And you have so-called RPA tools, robotic process automation tools, that can help you out and literally putting in those data in those files by means of AI. So there are a lot of applications of AI within HR that help you out with Excel-related HR tasks that people do.
So much to learn on this. Every time I'm so surprised of all the things that are already there and all the things that are possible. So really cool to hear all of that. Ooh, so I actually have a question that's been addressed to me by Jesper. So the question is, how do you look at AI and its impact from a psychological point of view? Do you have a tip for leaders or managers in the organizations? Very interesting question as well, and I think it really taps into what Job was saying before. When we're looking at it from a change management perspective, any kind of change is often seen as something that's going to disrupt the status quo.
Yeah.
And anything that disrupts the status quo puts us outside of our comfort zone. Well, outside of our comfort zone is uncomfortable because inside, of course, is comfortable. And knowing that it feels uncomfortable, people are going to respond in different ways. Some people are like, yes, I love this. This gives me energy and motivation. And there's going to be people who feel like, oh, I feel very uncomfortable. I don't like this feeling. Certain worrying thoughts or feelings can come up, such as anxiety. And then it's really important to, whatever the reaction might be, that the reaction is allowed to be there, whether it's the happy people or the people who are worried about it. A lot of people do tend to see change as something that, something might be taken away and things might be feeling extra insecure. So including them in the conversation, validating their feelings, also normalizing it, I think is the biggest and most important tip I can give to any manager or leader, but even also just to yourself if you're worried in any way about the change. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah,
Job?
I definitely agree with that. And maybe to add on that, of course, there are people within your organization who are really enthusiastic. Just also give them floor to put that enthusiasm into practice. So also give those ambassadors training or knowledge sharing, etc. So take into account the positive people that are really optimistic, but also the pessimists, but help them out in a tailored way.
Yeah, and maybe they can help each other out as well. That would also be really impactful, I think.
That's being linked actually to the basic of your organization. To what extent are people feeling trust and having the feeling
connected?
Connected, exactly. So really the basic elements of your organization. Yeah.
Well, Job, I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm going to start rounding off our conversation. But thank you very much for everything that you shared today. I think it's been incredibly insightful. Like I said, I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners at home or at the office have learned a lot too. So thank you, and thank you, our listeners, of course, for joining, for asking your questions. We're very happy that you joined. And I'm going to try and get this right because we have a next session coming up tomorrow, the HR Summit, and that's on the leadership's evolution in the age of hybrid work and shifting employee values. So please stay tuned for that session, and feel free to still sign up if you haven't yet. And of course, if you want to, at OpenUp, we're always very happy to talk about mental well-being. So if you have any questions or you want to learn more about what we do, please visit openup.com. But for now, this was it from our studio. We hope to see you next time, and thank you.